This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'm Lynn Hare Sargent, a member of the parish committee, and we want to welcome everybody and especially welcome any newcomers. Thank you, Beverly Reilly, for joining Beth in our opening music. It always gives me a tear in my eye to hear that. Also, thank you to Michael Feeney and Carrie Burkowski for serving as our tech people today. With the holiday, this is a quiet week. There will be no tea with the minister on Thursday because Pam will be attending virtually the annual meeting of the UU Ministers Association. Today, maybe this afternoon, I think maybe at 2, there will be a banner hanging. They'll work on hanging the rainbow banner, the big banner from the church, weather permitting. So we'll see about that. But tomorrow at noon, Beth will be playing a Memorial Day concert at the Carillon in Lawson Tower next to the church. You're welcome to come listen here at the church. Next Sunday, as Pride Month begins, we'll celebrate our church's belief in the infinite love which holds all people and the way that belief leads us to be a welcoming congregation. If you would like to speak in the service about why our wide welcome is important in your life, please let Pam know. Weather permitting, we'll be outside for that service. Please sign up to set up for this service or another Sundays. We always need people to put chairs out, take chairs in, etc. The link for this is in the chat. This ends our announcements. At the heart of our life together is a promise of how we will walk together. Our covenant expresses this promise, and we say it every week to recommit ourselves to live together in love. I invite you to say it with me. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to cherish the living earth, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Every Sunday, we light a flame within a chalice. The chalice symbolizes many things for us: the light of truth, the warmth of community, the continuity of the spirit. As Pam lights our chalice in the sanctuary, I invite you to light your candles at home and to write in the chat where you have lit those candles. Today, we light our chalice using words by Cynthia Landrum, minister of the Universalist Unitarian Church of East Liberty in Clark Lake, Michigan. In honor of those who have served and those who continue to serve at home and abroad for peace and in war, we light our chalice and we offer our thanks. Let's sing our opening hymn, Once to Every Soul and Nation.
Once to every soul and nation comes the moment to decide, in the strife of truth with falsehood, for the good or evil side. Poet, Unitarian, and abolitionist James Russell Lowell wrote these words in 1845. They were part of a much, much longer poem, The Present Crisis, written in response to Texas's admission into the United States. Slavery was legal in Texas, so now there were more representatives in Congress and the Senate who would do all they could to continue to claim other beings as their property. Lowell's poem began by looking to the past, to times when brave women and men had acted with courage for what was right, and the ways their actions had rippled through the ages. Yet in their time, others had thought they were crazy or wrong. So he called the people of his time not to wait until everyone could see the evils of slavery to stand against it. That time might never come. He called those who could see its evil to act now against the moral wrong of slavery. His words call to us still. New occasions teach new duties. Time makes ancient good uncouth. They must upward still and onward, who would keep abreast of truth. Today we remember those who have died in battles and in wartime service to keep our nation safe. But how do we remember them? Whose deaths do we remember? And what actions will our remembering lead us to take? These actions will ripple for good or for ill into the future. Let us reflect on these questions as we join Beth in singing us toward our vision of good. After the song, we'll hear Jen McGonagle and Fish McGill read The Unknown Loyal Dead, a speech delivered by Frederick Douglass at Arlington National Cemetery on Decoration Day, May 30th, 1871.
Peace, salam, shalom. We will sing those 3 words in 4 musical phrases. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Try it with me. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Once more. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom.
The Unknown Loyal Dead, a speech delivered by Frederick Douglass. Friends and fellow citizens, tarry here for a moment. My words shall be few and simple. The solemn rites of this hour and place call for no lengthened speech. There is, in the very air of this resting ground of the unknown dead, a silent, subtle, all-pervading eloquence, far more touching, impressive, and thrilling than living lips have ever uttered. Into the measureless depths of every loyal soul, it is now whispering lessons of all that is precious, priceless, holiest, and most enduring in human existence.
Dark and sad will be the hour to this nation when it forgets to pay grateful homage to its greatest benefactors. The offering we bring today is due alike to the patriot soldiers dead and their noble comrades who still live. For, whether living or dead, whether in time or eternity, the loyal soldiers who imperiled all for country and freedom are one and inseparable. Those unknown heroes whose whitened bones have been piously gathered here, and whose green graves we now strew with sweet and beautiful flowers, choice emblems alike of pure hearts and brave spirits, reached in their glorious career that last highest point of nobleness beyond which human power cannot go. They died for their country. No loftier tribute can be paid to the most illustrious of all benefactors of mankind than we pay to these unrecognized soldiers when we write above their graves this shining epitaph.
When the dark and vengeful spirit of slavery, always ambitious, preferring to rule in hell than to serve in heaven, fired the Southern heart and stirred all the malign elements of discord, when our great republic, the hope of freedom and self-government throughout the world, had reached the point of supreme peril, when the union of these states was torn and rent asunder at the center, and the armies of a gigantic rebellion came forth with broad blades and bloody hands to destroy the very foundations of American society, the unknown braves who flung themselves into the yawning chasm where cannon roared and bullets whistled, fought and fell. They died for their country.
We are sometimes asked, in the name of patriotism, to forget the merits of this fearful struggle and to remember with equal admiration those who struck at nation's life and those who struck to save it, those who fought for slavery and those who fought for liberty and justice. I am no minister of malice. I would not strike the fallen. I would not repel the repentant. But may my right hand forget her cunning and my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth if I forget the difference between the parties to that terrible, protracted, and bloodied conflict.
The essence and significance of our devotions here today are not to be found in the fact that the men whose remains fill these graves were brave in battle. If we met simply to show our sense of bravery, we would find enough on both sides to kindle admiration. In the raging storm of fire and blood, in the fierce torrent of shot and shell, of sword and bayonet, whether on foot or on horse, unflinching courage marked the rebel, not less than the loyal soldier. But we are not here to applaud manly courage, save as it has been displayed in a noble cause. We must never forget that victory to the rebellion meant death to the republic. We must never forget that the loyal soldiers who rest beneath this sod flung themselves between the nation and the nation's destroyers.
If today we have a country not boiling in an agony of blood, if now we have a united country, no longer cursed by the hell-black system of human bondage, if the American name is no longer a byword and a hissing to a mocking earth, if the Star-Spangled Banner floats only over free American citizens in every quarter of the land, and our country has before it a long and glorious career of justice, liberty, and civilization, we are indebted to the unselfish devotion of the noble army who rest in these honored graves all around us.
Picture the scene. Frederick Douglass, orator, abolitionist, a former escaped slave who had consulted with President Lincoln. Frederick Douglass stands in the newly created Arlington National Cemetery. A crowd of people, former soldiers, former slaves, Officials of the government, men, women, children, black and white, have gathered together to remember the Union dead. Their grief is as fresh still as the graves which stretch before them. Yet already memory is shifting. Is this a time to remember soldiers who have died that slaves might be freed into life? Or is it a time to remember brave men of both sides, brothers who fought as brothers sometimes do? Frederick Douglass makes the point of arguing against that telling of the story. We are not here to applaud manly courage, save as it has been displayed in a noble cause. We must never forget that victory to the rebellion meant death to the Republic. We must never forget that the loyal soldiers who rest beneath this sod flung themselves between the nation and the nation's destroyers. But already the understanding that he spoke against, that understanding of the war, was taking hold. It was an argument over states' rights, people now emphasized, not about recognizing the humanity of people held in slavery because of the color of their skin. The first Decoration Day was marked in 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, when former slaves, now freed people, made one of their first acts of freedom the burial and honoring of the bodies of Union soldiers who had been taken prisoner and died and thrown into a mass grave. They held speeches, they gave thanks, they put on a parade and picnicked with their families. It sounds like what many of us still do on Memorial Day. But as the narrative changed, their celebration was consciously forgotten. Credit for the first Decoration Day was given to towns where the celebrations were staged by white people. In 1966, Lyndon Johnson declared Waterloo, New York, the birthplace of the holiday. Waterloo is in upstate New York near Seneca Falls, about as far as one could get from battlefields and former slaves. Yes, honoring the Confederate soldiers who had died enabled the country to come back together, but it also honored their cause, not just the cause of states' rights, but also the cause of fighting for the institution of slavery. And so, as many of us are coming to realize, the dehumanizing of Black people has taken on other forms over the years since. The Greenwood massacre 100 years ago tomorrow results from allowing that story to prevail. The deaths of George Floyd last Memorial Day and so many others before and since result from our allowing the story to continue to be told in a way which honors the cause of the South. Mourning results from connection. We mourn our family and friends, but we also mourn those in whom we can see ourselves and our loved ones. What does it say that our country mourns and honors Confederate soldiers, but forgets those killed in slavery, in Jim Crow, in prisons, in policing? In whom do we see ourselves? Where do we feel and find our connections? It is important that we remember and honor the women and men killed defending our country. Whether we are in favor of the wars they fight or not, they fight at the order of our government, and we cannot look away. But what about those killed in battles not so clear-cut? How do we remember the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, killed from wounds received defending our leaders from armed insurrectionists? How do we remember the victims of the Greenwood massacre when state officials may have been involved in their attack? How do we remember the soldiers killed not in battle, but later, years later even, by wounds to body, mind, or spirit received during their service? Do we honor them? Do we care for them? Can the story we tell hold them even in their pain? I invite you to reflect on these questions as we remember the women and men who died this year. Beth will lead us again in singing Peace, Salam, Shalom as Carrie shares their images.
Peace, salam, shalom. 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 Peace, salam, shalom.
Let us open our hearts to mystery. Our hearts break, God, at the sight of these women and men, killed defending our nation's interests, killed defending our ideals. We mourn the ways our nation has not lived up to those ideals. We mourn the stories their lives will not go into, the ideals they will not live for themselves, the families they have left. We hold this grief in our heart. Help us to remember that grief is part of our story, that in order to tell our stories, whether our own or our nation's completely, we cannot just tell the happy times. We cannot just make the story come out the way we want. We have to acknowledge the grief, the darkness, the times where we have gone wrong, in order to pick up the path again and move towards that vision that we believe in, that vision of a country where all are honored and loved and treated as equal, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of whom they love, regardless of how they identify as male or female or bisexual. Somewhere in between, we hold these truths. Help us to tell that story and to live that story. Help us to correct one another where the story is going wrong. And help us to see that as the rain fall on these dark days may not lead us to the kind of day we want today, but leads to flowers in the end, that our entering into the sadness, seeing the pain for what it is, that will lead to the flowering that we hope for. We hold in our hearts today all who are living out the call of peace, whether in their homes, in our communities, or around the world. We pledge ourselves again to serve that peace in our hearts, that peace in our world, that peace which holds us all. I invite you now in silence to let that peace take charge in your heart. May we continue to draw on that peace in the days to come. I invite you now to enter into our time of sharing of joys and sorrows, naming the people or events which are in your heart, writing your joys and sorrows in the chat. If you prefer not to share any this week, you are welcome to respond with care to others' words. To all the joys and all the sorrows that we have shared, let us say together our response, may love abound. And now let's sing our closing hymn, Soon the Day Will Arrive, and we're going to join singer Leah Morris in singing.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and their vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
And now, you dreamers of a bright tomorrow, go forth into the world telling stories which bring peace and justice to all people, and rest secure in the knowledge that the peace which passes all our understanding beats within your heart and is always there to draw on. Go in peace.